being recorded, yep. So I'm going to try and keep the background stuff pretty brief, and then we'll go in and we'll take a look at it in like a dummy course that I've made with a few different issues and how you can go through them.
Okay.
And I know I've worked with you on a few different things before. I've done transcripts and things for you in the past, so I know you're familiar with accessibility and the services we provide, so I won't spend too much time on this. But we do offer a wide variety of support for instructional material creation, along with procurement of accessible products and web accessibility, along with providing assistive technology support for anybody who needs it on campus. So that's that spiel. You can, if you email accessibility@csusb.edu, that will create a ticket for us. It will go to our whole team, and then whoever is the most relevant person will pick it up and get in contact with you.
Is this ATAC now? Or is this a different?
This is, well, ATAC has sort of evolved, so now we are Accessible Technology Services because we do more than just the assistive technology piece, but ATAC is a piece of that puzzle. So that's the Assistive Technology Center. It's now just ATC. We took out the second A.
Okay.
So they are part of it. So the ATC piece, that is the assistive technology piece, and then the accessible technology piece is the part that supports the accessible technology initiatives, and that is instructional materials, procurement, and web. But we're all one big team.
Yeah, let me understand the difference then. Accessibility, and then what was the other?
Assistive technology. So accessibility is making things accessible so people who use assistive technology, which is like a screen reader, magnifiers, you know, speech to text, anything like that, so they can interact with the documents or whatever other content you're producing. So that's sort of the distinction there.
Yeah, I think you and I worked on some things together. It was because we had a hearing impaired student.
Right.
You needed a transcript of voice recordings. I don't think it was audio, or it was audio, not video.
It was audio.
Yeah. Okay, now let's see. If we have a video, could be the same thing. We might need a transcript, right? Of they need closed captioning, right?
Right, so, and we do recommend, we caption everything for free. There's no charge associated with it. So even if you don't have a student with an accommodation, we encourage people to caption things just because it helps a lot of different students with input and just sort of understanding and retention. So we will caption anything. You just have to send us the links to what you want captioned and we'll take care of it for you. So if you have a YouTube video or you have a different video you've created, just get it to us somehow and we'll act as the liaison for getting that caption for you. And ITS is currently absorbing that cost.
Okay, then what if we have the student, I don't know what the politically correct term is now, the vision impaired, right? Okay, they usually have some kind of technology that will read a document, right?
So that's, sorry, go ahead, finish your question.
Yeah, so video, they're able to listen to it. Is there something that gives them the picture, some kind of assistive technology?
There is not within a video. So when you're creating a video, I would just encourage you to sort of talk about what is up there. So if you're doing an equation or you're writing something down, then you can just say it as you're doing it, and that way they have the context.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, when I used to do the audio recordings live in class, because I know I didn't have a video component, I would do that. I'd say we're looking at slide, so-and-so in the textbook, PowerPoint,
Exactly. So it's the exact same concept, and that works great. It works great for people who are visually impaired, and it works great with, just like you just said, anybody who's just listening to the audio for whatever reason. So it's just a best practice to try and remember regardless, but especially if you have somebody, you're creating a video that, that somebody who's visually impaired might come across, especially if you're making something and you're going to use it over a few quarters or semesters and you want to make sure it'll stick regardless of who's in your class. It's usually a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, like I said, I don't understand why more people aren't here.
Well, I appreciate that, and hopefully you know, maybe the technical difficulties, like I said, or maybe they're busy or burned out, or they missed the email. I don't know. There's so much going on right now.
They're like, well, that's it. They're busy.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, not that I'm not, but they're like the ostrich, right? If their head's in the ground, oh, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully over, you know, I don't know. It's hard to say anymore. We had a whole rollout plan for Ally, but now everything is, you know, different. So, but regardless, so what Ally is it's basically an accessibility checker for anything you upload into your course. So that's documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, things like that. It's not going to evaluate the accessibility of anything you type directly into Blackboard. It's not going to evaluate multimedia, so those videos and things like that. It doesn't do that yet. That's on their roadmap, but they haven't gotten that far yet. So basically what it is it's just a checker. So you can click those gauges that are in your course and it'll give you feedback on how accessible the document is and what the lowest hanging fruit, the biggest bang for your buck thing to fix is, and then how to fix it. And I'll show you all of that in a minute. So that's sort of how it works on your side. And then on the student side, they don't see the gauges, they don't see the scores. All they see is there's a big A next to the uploaded content, and they can click that and they can choose to download that content into a different format. So if they are using primarily a tablet or something, and you've uploaded a PDF or a Word document and they'd rather look at it in HTML because it's more scalable and it looks better on that type of screen, then Ally will automatically convert it for them. It also can convert things into an MP3, so it can create an audio version, which was great when everybody was commuting. It's not such a strong argument now, but it was really great when everybody was commuting to campus, and a variety of other formats that people can use, so they can choose the best way for them to ingest that content that you've created and upload for them. But they don't see how it's gauged, how accessible it is. But I will say that the more accessible it is, the better those alternate formats are going to be. So if you have a really inaccessible PDF or something like that, when Ally goes to convert it, it's not going to go well. And so the alternate format of that, it's, you know, garbage in, garbage out kind of concept. So if it's more accessible, if those gauges are greener, then the alternate formats are going to be better as well. So I think you've seen this already. I guess having it turned on already makes this easier as well. So there's these different colored gauges next to the uploaded content, and you can click them and they will give you an overview of the score, what's wrong with it, how to fix it, and then it will rescore it once you either make the changes with it right directly in Ally or when you upload a copy that has those changes in it. And then, like I said, for the student side, they have this big A here, and then they can select from a variety of different options depending on what their needs are and what works best for them.
What's electronic Braille?
So if you have a student who is blind in your course, it will download it and convert it into an electronic Braille format so that if they use a Braille reader, it'll just allow them to easily use their reader is compatible with that technology.
Well, your introduction was saying this is basically documents now, right? Not audio recordings and not video recordings.
Right, at this point, that's correct, yeah. Right. So the audio and video recordings you can still send to us. We'll still help you with any of that stuff. So it's right now, that's the way that it is, and hopefully that will change at some point. Can you see my Blackboard course here? Okay, so you can see here I've uploaded a variety of different examples. So I've got this one here, I've got one that's just an image, and then I've got the presentation I just gave that before I made the accessibility changes to it and afterward, and then this is a PDF. So if we go to this one, this is the easiest one, I think, to fix and to understand. So if I decide I want to take a look at this and see why I have this red gauge, I can just click on the gauge. And hopefully this isn't going to freak out on me, but it's been sitting there for a while. I might need to refresh. Darn. Okay, well, do you have any questions so far while we wait?
I'm giving you most of them. Yeah. Yeah. This is, you're actually at a website that you're sharing with me right now. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so let's see if it comes back to life. Oh boy. Oh yes, here we go. Okay, so I've uploaded this picture and this image that I've uploaded, it's missing a description. So that's pretty bad for people who would need a description to understand what's going on, and for people who have metered or low data connections and they just have that red X and the picture won't load. But if you put the metadata in, it would tell you what was in there. So if I want to know what this means, it will tell me what an image description is and explain it. And it will also tell me why it's important. And if I wanted to know, I could also find out how to write a good alt text image. So those are all right there. Now in this case, I have the ability right here to just add my image description. So I can put something like that.
You mentioned that it would also aid the student who has a poor connection, but it doesn't really tell me that here, does it?
It doesn't, no, because this is specifically in the context of accessibility. I'm giving you more of a, universal design type aspect. Right. I think sometimes when we focus so much on students with visual impairments, it's extremely important. It definitely needs to get done, but there are a lot of other people who also can be affected by things. And I think it just helps to contextualize things a little bit. So I can add my description here, and then my score is perfect because there's nothing else I really need to do in this case. So if I look at my I am bad example here, so what it's saying is I have an image that's missing description again, but I also have other issues. So if over here, there's the all issues button, and it will tell me the two biggest things wrong with this document, and that are this is missing a description, just like the last one, and also that it doesn't have headings. So again, headings are where you lay out in the document, kind of like a newspaper, heading 1, heading 2, there's in that styles ribbon. And if you don't use those to structure the document, people with visual disabilities, people who have dexterity issues, who need to quickly navigate through a document, people who are just in a hurry, if it's a large document and they want to be able to just select where to go from the navigation pane, headings will allow all those people to do that. And so they're an important accessibility feature. So let's say I decide I want to fix this. So I can download my document, or I can find the original on my computer. So I'm going to download this document. And I'm not sure if you're still going to be able to see the screen. I might have to do a new share, we'll find out. Luckily, since it's just the two of us, it's a little bit less pressure, so that's kind of nice. I'm
yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
there we go.
Share again.
Okay, can you see it now?
What you downloaded? No. I'm still looking at, I think, what was originally on the screen.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
My mistake. Now, can you see it? Okay. So here you can see it kind of looks like I have headings, but I don't actually. All I did was make this bold and I made the font big, but I didn't actually use my styles ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the places where it looks like there are actually headings in and just turn them into real headings. There's a bunch of other stuff wrong in this document because I use this as other example for other things too, which we don't necessarily have to get in here. But like this, I know is a fake list, so I'm going to use my list features up here, make it look better. And here is where I needed that alt text, and I cheated because I prepared the alt text in advance. But I'm just going to add that in under the edit alt text by the picture. And so now I fixed this up.
Okay, I saw in Word how you put the headings in the bullet points. What was that below the picture, the alt text?
This?
How did you put in?
I realized when I did that, I went really, really fast. So if you have an image that needs alt text, so sometimes things are purely decorative. They're just there because you want them there, but they don't really enhance the context of what you're talking about, and sometimes they are relevant. So depending on what type of image it is, that tells you whether you need a full description or whether it's just decorative. So you can select the picture, and on this version of Word, there's this option that just says edit alt text. Some of the older ones, it's under format picture and it's buried, but I think everything that's on the campus now has this nice edit alt text option right there when you right click it.
This is a static picture pasted into Word.
Yes. Yeah. I know it looks weird because it looks like a video. It's probably a bad choice.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay. Right.
But I think I was talking about captions in the document, which is why the screenshot's on there. But in any event, you can either, if it's something that describes, is relevant to the context, you would describe it here. If it is just purely decorative, you can just click this box that says mark it as decorative, and then a screen reader would just ignore it. It would know that it's not important. It would skip right over it. It wouldn't worry about it, and you're done.
What would that mean, that it's decorative?
That's just something that doesn't, like if you just put a picture of a flower in here because you thought it was nice and it didn't have anything to do with taxes or whatever you were talking about, then that would be a decorative image. But if it was a picture of the, I don't know, the Constitution or something else that you were talking about and it was relevant to the context, then you would put in an alt description. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to save this as something else so I can find it when I re-upload it, which I have a bunch of examples that I was practicing with. So I've made my changes here. And then I'm going to go back into where we were. Here. And it says here in this right-hand side, upload a version with headings. So I can either drop it in or I can browse. And it was this one right here, and just put it in there. So I'm just replacing it, and I fixed my issues. And now if someone wanted to get this alternate version, it would be of a better quality for them when they did that. So I think in the interest of time, I was going to show you what it sounds like for people when things are more or less accessible, but I don't know if we really need to get into that today. I'll just give you a couple more examples on this side, and then we'll go into the student side and take a look and see what they see.
What's the sounding one? What is that? Because it's is that a audio?
Right. So there's, would you like to hear it? We can do it if you would like to.
Go ahead, because I've used a variety of audio and video over the years.
Okay, great. So here are two different versions of the presentation. One is slightly less accessible, and the reason it's less accessible is it goes back to not having those images with the description, which, those pesky images. And then the other version, it does have the images and it's got a perfect score. So I already downloaded using the alternate formats button, the MP3 version of both of these. So I selected it, I downloaded it, and I think you can probably see it down here in my downloads bar. And I marked down the time so that we don't have to spend too much time listening to it, unless you want to.
That's okay.
So let me just make sure I use the right one.
Just want to see how this works. Yeah.
So, oops. Let me do a new share and go to it on my desktop. Can you still see everything? I hope so.
I'm looking at the, okay, now what am I looking at? It's flipping
Hopefully,
between screens here. To flip between a whole bunch of different screens.
okay. How about?
Now I'm looking at your desktop.
Okay, you can see my desktop?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so this version here is the less accessible version. I wouldn't say it's not accessible, but it's less accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing it. I'm going to fast forward it to where that first image was, where I didn't add the alt text. And you could see if someone was just listening to this, how it might be a little bit more jarring. You can also hear the voice that it uses and see what you think. So let me just blow this up so I can see where I'm at. Let's go a little bit more forward here.
Give students instant alternate formats. Begin bulleted list with 3 items. Item 1 of 3. Ally generates a variety of alternate formats that students can download for the preferred learning style. Item 2 of 3. Student view does not show accessibility score. Item 3 of 3. The more accessible the content, the better the alternate formats. Begin heading level 1. Blackboard Ally instructor view. Begin bulleted list with 1 item. Item 1 of 1.
So you can hear how adding that structure in sort of really helps give the context if you're only listening to it. I'm going to move it forward just a little bit so we can get to where those images were, because it does sort of trudge along there. We're almost there. Okay, I'm going to start it right here.
Indicator. Item 2 of 2. Guided remediation. Image without alternative description. Image without alternative description. Begin.
So if you hear that, that was basically those images that I had that were the pictures of the gauges, but I didn't tag them as such. And so since I'm just listening to it, I didn't really get the context. Whereas this one, we'll go a little bit quicker.
Title. What is Blackboard?
Let me move her forward. Okay.
Item 1 of 3. Ally generates a variety of alternate formats that students can download for the preferred learning style. Item 2 of 3. Student view does not show accessibility score. Item 3 of 3. The more accessible the content, the better the alternate formats. Begin image with description. Click the indicator. Accessibility score for philosopher_statues.jpg is rated at 25%.
So this is my
Read
alt
the
text
feedback.
for this image.
This image is missing an alternative description. Buttons for what this means, and how to write a good description. Improve your file. Add alternative description.
So because it had the alt text, she's able to sort of read it. And then what all that was this right here. It was this. And then this was the alt text that was just read to us. So you can see if someone chose to do that format, it would make a pretty big difference for them, adding in those things and increasing the accessibility of the document.
There was supposed to be a difference in the reading in that MP3. Is that right?
Well, it was what was read. So for the one that was less accessible,
yeah,
it read the bulleted lists, and then it said this image, no alternative text, image, no alternative text. And then for the second example, it read the bulleted list, and then it said image with the alternative text of, I think something to that effect. And then it read this alternative text that was here that I had added to the.
This is not the instructor using an MP3, but this is the instructor having posted a document or an image, and then it's trying to read it in MP3 for the student.
Correct.
Right? And now it's telling the professor, okay, or the instructor, what's missing here for that student who needs the MP3.
Right. So if your score is perfect or this lighter green high,
Right.
then it's going to do a really good job regardless of which of these formats you choose. Now, for
Okay.
things like HTML, depending on if you're using assistive technology or not, it might not make that big of a difference. It's going to look pretty much the same. But if you do need those alternate images and they're not there, you're still not going to get them. So it just sort of depends. I just wanted to show how increasing that accessibility score can make a difference for people depending on which format they're using and how this all kind of works.
And again, Ally, is that how you pronounce it?
It's Ally.
Ally, okay. It should be coaching here what needs to be done, right, to fix it.
Right, and that's what these gauges with these step-by-step.
That's what I understand it, but it'll tell me right away, does it look good or bad?
Right.
You got to click in there and it tries to coach you how to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Right, and then if at any point you get stuck or you just get fed up, that's when you can contact us for help.
Okay.
So, and that was the last example I wanted to show you was this PDF.
Okay.
Yeah, so this PDF is an untagged PDF. It's at 5%. And basically, this might be the point where you're like, I have no idea how to do this. This is over my head. I don't have the time for this. This is just too much. This is not adding headings or putting in a simple description. This is some like more aggressive remediation. And at that point, that's when I would encourage you to just reach out to us and let us help you remediate it on your behalf. You know, we understand you're not just going to be able to go in and know how to do this and how to do it well and stuff like that. So at a certain point, I think that's where that support really comes in for the instructors. You can decide if you want to take it on, then that's great. And if you don't, then, you know, that's what we're here for. So that's why I have this example in here, because this is less straightforward if you don't have experience remediating PDFs for accessibility, which most people don't. So,
okay.
But so after you go through, or even before you go through, regardless of whether you go through or not, I'm going to go in as a student now. I'm going to enter my student preview mode here. And I'm going to go over to this content. And you can see they don't see any of those nasty scores or any of that. All they see is this option for the alternate formats. Okay. So regardless of how good or bad it is, they'll always have this option, but the quality, like I said, will vary depending on how good it is on the back end. So then they can decide how they want to see it. There's, you know, different options that might be good for different people for different reasons. This one is newer. I thought it was kind of cool. I just saw it today for the first time. If they're the first person to download something in an alternate format, sometimes it can take a minute, sometimes it doesn't. I don't really know why, but you know, it can take, if it's a really big file and it's converting to an MP3, sometimes that can take a couple of minutes. So this is that same presentation, only in an HTML, but the HTML also has like different options, different filters you can put on for reading support, which I thought was pretty interesting, depending on how you prefer to read or intake your information, or if you have a learning disability or something like this, that might be a kind of a handy feature. So I just thought I'd share that with you because I just learned about it today. So anyway, so this is what they'll see. They can choose what they want, or they can just look at it how it comes and ignore this altogether, which I'm sure plenty of people do that too. But at least they have some flexibility and some options in how they're ingesting this information. If there's some reason why one format would be better than another, it sort of gives flexibility to that process.
You showed a document, then a picture basically, and then the third one that was, you're saying a bit challenging, was the PDF.
Yeah, that was this one right here.
Okay.
Oh, it's downloading, but it's, yeah, that was this one. Which, depending on how the PDF is, it might not be that big of a deal, but sometimes they can be a little hairy. So yeah, I showed a document, I showed a PowerPoint, I showed just the picture, and then the PDF. So those are the the different types I have uploaded here.
How complicated is that PDF? Like to create the whatever Ally wants. How complicated is that?
It depends on the quality of the PDF, on the quality
Okay.
of the scan. So it really just sort of depends. But if it's a nice, clean PDF, it's not that hard if you know which buttons to push. So that's just a question of knowing how to do it. I use Adobe DC most of the time, and there is a button that is under tools called Make Accessible, and it kind of walks you through it, and it gives you the first pass of all the major accessibility things that need to be fixed, and that's pretty much it.
You need another special piece of software.
Well, Adobe DC, I mean, that's just the Acrobat reader, right? Which I think everybody has on campus. So I don't, it is a separate piece, yes, but I wouldn't necessarily, it's not specialized and it's free for campus. So it's of moderate difficulty as far as knowing how to use it. But it's, you know, it's one of those things that really varies by the PDF. This one actually isn't too bad because it's a clean scan. It's nice and neat, and you can just sort of walk through and quickly do it. But some of them, where if there's a bunch of handwriting or it's a really old, like crinkly copy, those are really, really problematic. So, and they're problematic for anybody. So I wouldn't really recommend uploading those at all if you can find a different version, which I know isn't always possible, but whenever possible, just the cleaner the scan, the better it is for most people, I would think. So do you have any other questions, or is there anything I need to clarify a little bit more? I know I was talking pretty fast sometimes.
That's okay. You were saying that this was basically, we're going to try starting to roll this out now that the virus has intervened. They're trying to make all of these items that the instructor might put in the course more accessible to a variety of people. Basically.
Correct. Exactly. So this is just a tool to help you do that, and just a simpler way to help you, you know, make your course more friendly to a variety of learners, you know. So like I said, you can do with it what you will. We're not going to mandate that you use it, but it's, you know, I believe faculty have an obligation to make things compliant whenever they can. So this is just an easier way to get to do that. You know, it's a little bit more independent, and, you know, you can sort of work on it at your own pace, and you can decide how and when you want to do it. So it's just there as an option, as a tool for you. And
to see if you've really got a problem with something.
That's true too. That's true too. So if you have some glaring thing, you might want to look at what it is and why it's there, and if there's another way you can facilitate getting that information to your students. Just because if it's a real big problem, then it's probably a problem for anybody, regardless of any underlying disabilities.